Equity, diversity, and inclusion means to me, what I look at it from the concept of Ubuntu. There's an African philosophy called Ubuntu, which means I am because we are. So I look at EDI from that lens. It's just a way to connect with the whole of humanity, really, and lifts everybody up. So aligns very closely with the vision of the UFA to uplift the whole people, bringing everybody together, looking at the systemic barriers that influence how people perform. And from the research lens, it simply means that we need to do a better job bringing in those who are underrepresented in research to come up with meaningful outcomes that are real world outcomes that will make real life impact for people, especially those who have been underrepresented in research.
I don't think that we can even talk about homogeneous family anymore. We are all heterogeneous. We're just becoming more global. And I don't think we're going to succeed at this in the future if we do not lead this perspective from an EDI, within an EDI lens. Because what that gives us is actually we are going to treat people more fair, more just, more equitable. We are actually going to be very aware of the nuances of having diverse people from diverse background, that not everybody dressed the same way, not everybody eats the same way. We are not going to be monocultural, anything. We are actually going to be multi in everything that we do. That actually we cannot live by including only the people that we are comfortable with, including the variables we're comfortable with, but through our research, by actually going outside of the box and seeking things that we didn't think about to include in our research, whether it is the specimen we're working on, the team we're building for the research, the objective of the research that has to go beyond what is we classically think of as being the stakeholder who will be important for that research to something much broader than ourselves. And I strongly believe it is a way to mend the world.
If we don't take into account how messy and complicated and interesting human beings are, our research gets too narrow and it doesn't do as much as it could. And so all this great work that we're doing at the university, all this research time and effort being spent, it's to me a fairly small lever to switch to suddenly translate that into a much more impactful thing. Not saying that it doesn't take effort and there's a whole level of learning and bandwidth required. But to me, it seems to make sense. Now that we have done this work, let's make sure it actually can help as many people as possible.
What we have to think about is all of the people connected to the grant and all of the training opportunities that we might be able to offer them. And so those training opportunities might be, for example, I've taught my autistic community partners how to code qualitative data. I've taught them how to interview participants. I've taught them how to understand what community-based participatory research looks like. And so in that way, I'm basically adding skills. I'm giving them opportunities and skills that they didn't have before. And so we call that emancipatory participatory research. It means that you're taking these individuals who experienced a great deal of systemic barriers and marginalization, and they've missed opportunities that through no fault of their own, they weren't offered. And now we can give it to them. And that actually feels amazing. It feels amazing that I can not only get the research done and I can make a scientific impact, but at the same time, I can take all of these individuals and give them all of these opportunities that they can then go on and make something of.
I think it's exciting that the more now that we integrate EDI in our research is going to be able to consider and apply to a wider part of our population. So as we get better and better at incorporating EDI into our researcher groups, we're going to see more innovation. We're going to see creative ideas. We're going to see people challenging each other's ideas so that, you don't do the first thing. You do the thing that might take you even further because you've been challenged. So I think it'll progress innovation and quality of whatever we do. I just feel more sure that whatever I learn has a greater chance of then again going out and actually helping somebody because it won't be very specific. So in the past, we came up with great ideas. It's just by not always thinking on the broader sense, our ideas were great, but they were great for whatever it was that we were building them for, not necessarily could they easily apply to a larger population.
One of the best examples that we have is talking with some of the folks who do occupational therapy, some of the people who do things like rehabilitative medicine. There was a pretty big conversation not too long ago, within the past couple of decades, about car crash test dummies. There was an average kind of person that was envisioned, and all of the dummies were built off of that model. But the thing is, that didn't really reflect the reality of a lot of female-bodied persons. It didn't reflect the reality of a lot of shorter people, of a lot of heavier people. And what people who worked in rehabilitative medicine were finding was, hey, the injuries that are happening during a car accident could be very preventable if things were designed to think about the actual reality of human diversities and in their bodies, without people coming in and saying like, hey, maybe we need to reconsider who we're designing these apparatuses for. We're going to miss out on the fact that they're not designed for anybody. Once we started incorporating a variety of different body diversities into crash test dummies when they were doing their accident testing, what we found is, there's all these different ways that we can make cars safer, prevent some of the most severe injuries. And so that has a real effect that saves lives.
Being honest with ourselves is probably the most important thing that we can do in terms of integrating EDI, not only in research, but in our daily lives. Because if we recognize the knowledge that we have in relation to these concepts, or the lack of knowledge that we might have in relation to these concepts, then we can actually start working on the things that we need to be working on. For the University of Alberta, it's very important that each one of us, each researcher, each member of the community, each professor, each student even, right, the staff members as well, that we start thinking about EDI from a perspective that allows us to recognize the things that we need to learn about this.
Broaden your mind about EDI, and it's not necessarily something that you're just going to one statement that's going to be there, but actually think about the whole aspect in research, from the team to the research itself, to the stakeholders involved, to the dissemination activities. It has to be the whole thing that you're doing. And I think about it for the public good in a general sense in a society like Canada. What is your research bringing?
Thankfully, most of the members of the community at the University of Alberta, they understand the relevance of integrating EDI concepts in research. But if somebody has a specific understanding of EDI that feels kind of conflicting for them, I think that's a very good sign that it's important for us to reach out and ask for the supports and the help that we need for us to understand how we can actually integrate EDI in research environments and in research projects, and that will help all of us.